Welcome to the Deep Dive.
Great to be here.
Today, we're plunging into a very specific, but, well, incredibly high-value corner of the automotive world, our source material. It's this detailed market report from Cognitive Market Research. And it zooms right in on the global premium vehicles suspension market.
Yep, a really focused look.
So our mission today, basically, is to unpack the key numbers, the trends, and figure out what's really driving growth in this segment.
And it is growing.
Oh, yeah. And when we say high value, we're not kidding. We're talking billions of dollars globally.
It's huge.
And this market, it's right where cutting-edge tech meets, well, the driving experience itself. It directly impacts the comfort, the performance, everything you feel in a premium car.
Exactly. Suspension is often, kind of overlooked. But in the premium space, it's way more than just soaking up bumps.
Right.
It's about dynamic control, handling that feeling of luxury. And this report, it gives a really clear global snapshot, highlights some pretty fascinating shifts happening.
Okay, let's dig in then. Let's unpack these findings. What's the big picture, the global view look like for this market?
Okay, so the report lays out the value progression. In 2021, it was already pretty substantial, $6,915.8 million.
Okay, almost $7 billion.
Right, and the projection shows steady growth to $8,600 million by 2025.
Uh-huh.
But then the big jump is by 2033. The forecast hits an impressive $13,298.7 million.
$13.3 billion.
Yeah. And that translates to a global compound annual growth rate, the CAGR, of 5.6%.
Doubling in about a decade. For a market that's already this big and specific, that feels pretty significant.
It really is. Consistent growth.
And the report, it doesn't just give us the what, right? It tells us the why. What are the core drivers they're pointing to for this kind of growth?
Well, they highlight three main factors pushing this. First, it's pretty straightforward. The simple, undeniable increase in global demand for luxury vehicles.
Right. More wealthy people, more premium cars.
Yeah. Exactly. As global wealth grows, more people can afford premium cars, and those cars, well, they need premium components like advanced suspension.
Makes sense. More premium cars sold equals more premium suspension needed. Pretty logical. What else?
Second, and this is really key, it's the rapid advancement in adaptive suspension technologies.
Adaptive? Okay.
Yeah, this isn't just about, better springs or dampers. We're talking sophisticated electronic systems. They can adjust the ride characteristics in real time, constantly optimizing.
So comfort and handling both.
Pretty much. Unlike the older sort of passive systems, this adaptive tech can react almost instantly to road conditions, driver input, you name it. Think magnetic ride control, active air suspension, systems that can stiffen or soften the ride, almost like they're predicting what's coming.
Ah, okay. So it's not just passive comfort. It's dynamic, it's responsive comfort and performance, and it's all enabled by this tech.
Precisely. And that ties right into the third driver they identified, the consumer shift towards demanding enhanced ride comfort.
People just expect more now.
Kind of, yeah. Buyers of premium vehicles, they aren't just looking for raw performance anymore. They expect a supremely comfortable, refined experience. Quiet, smooth, regardless of the road surface. And adaptive suspension is crucial for delivering that level of refinement.
Got it. So demand, technology, and expectations. That sets the global foundation. Now, let's zoom in a bit. The report breaks things down region by region, starting with let's say, the more established markets, like North America and Europe. How do those stack up?
Right. So in North America, the market was valued at $2074.7 million back in 2021.
Okay, about $2 billion.
Yeah. And it's projected to reach $396.5 million by 2033. That gives it a regional CGR of 5.4%. So, right around that global average we mentioned.
5.4%. Pretty steady. And within North America?
Well, as you'd probably guess, the United States is the largest contributor by far. It's growing from $1,464.8 million to $2,653.5 million. That's a 5% CGR for the U.S.
Okay, solid growth in the U.S. But are any other parts of North America, outpacing that slightly?
Yeah, actually. Canada shows slightly stronger performance. It's got a 6% CAGR, projected to go from $421.2 million up to $849.4 million.
Okay.
And Mexico is even a touch faster. 6.3% CAGR, going from $188.8 million to $393.5 million.
Interesting. So Canada and Mexico growing a bit faster than the U.S. in this space.
Seems so. The numbers really reflect that sustained demand for premium vehicles across the whole continent, but with particularly strong momentum in Canada and Mexico relative to their starting points.
Okay, let's hop across the pond. Europe. Traditionally, a powerhouse for luxury automotive brands.
Right. And Europe was actually the largest regional market in 2021. It started bigger than North America at $2,731.7 million.
Bigger starting point. But the growth...
Its projected CEGR to 2033 is slightly lower than North America's. It's 5% overall for Europe, reaching $4,907.2 million.
Okay. And within Europe, I imagine there's some variation there, too.
Oh, absolutely. The growth rates vary quite a bit country by country. Let's see. The UK is at 4.5% CAGR, Germany 4.6%, France 4.3%. Italy is a bit higher at 4.9%. And Russia, interestingly, is at 5.5%. So generally steady, mostly in that 4-5% range.
Any surprises in the European numbers? Anyone standing out?
Yeah, Spain is a definite standout. It shows the highest European CAGR in the report at 6.4%.
6.4% for Spain. That's quite strong.
It is, projecting growth from $243.1 million up to $505.4 million. On the other end of the scale, you have like Luxembourg, much smaller market, growing much slower at only 2.1% CAGR.
Okay.
But what's also interesting is the rest of Europe category. So grouping together many of the other countries, collectively, they show a pretty healthy 5.8% CAGR.
Huh. So momentum across many smaller European markets, too.
Exactly. It really shows the diverse economic conditions and, market dynamics even within Europe. It's not one monolithic block.
Right. Now, here's where it seems to get really interesting. The report highlights regions with a much, steeper growth curve. Let's talk about Asia-Pacific.
Okay, yeah. Asia-Pacific. This is identified in the report as the region with the strongest overall growth trajectory. No question.
Strongest. How strong are we talking?
It's forecasted to jump from $1,345.1 million in 2021. So starting smaller than NA or Europe.
Right.
All the way up to $2,919.1 million by 2033. That gives it a region-leading CAGR of 6.7%.
6.7%. Wow. That's significantly higher than the 5-point-something we saw in North America and Europe. What's driving that acceleration?
Well, it's largely driven by the sheer scale and the rapid economic development in certain key countries there. China, unsurprisingly, takes the leading role within the region.
What are the numbers for China?
Projected growth from $472.1 million to a massive $1,138.4 million. That's an impressive 7.6% CAGR just for China.
Wow. China's numbers are huge, both in size and growth rate.
They really are. But the absolute standout, the market with the highest CAGR highlighted anywhere in this entire report, is India.
India. Really. Higher than China.
This audio was created with podcastle.ai.
Entire report is India.
India. Really. Higher than China.
Yep. Highest charity R mentioned. It's projected to grow from a smaller base, $137.2 million, but up to $335.7 million. And that's with a powerful 7.8% CAGR.
India booming at nearly 8%, just for premium suspension. That really underscores the point about rising luxury demand and, changing consumer expectations in that market. It's incredible.
Absolutely. It speaks volumes. And there are other significant markets in Asia-Pac, too. Japan solid at 5.6% CAGR, South Korea 6.1%, Australia 5.8%, and Southeast Asia, collectively, that's growing at 6.3%.
So strong growth pretty much across the board in Asia-Pacific.
Pretty much. And this rapid growth, it isn't just about raw numbers. It signifies a really fundamental shift in global wealth distribution, yes, but also how quickly consumers in these markets are demanding those premium features, like advanced suspension that really define luxury today.
Okay, let's turn to Latin America now, another region where the report seems to point to, pretty robust growth, at least in key countries.
Right. Now, the report didn't give a single total regional value for Latin America like it did for the others, but the country-level data they provide is very telling.
So who's leading the pack there?
Brazil. Brazil leads the way with a strong 6.8 Pacific CAGR, projected to grow from $189.8 million up to $421.3 million.
6.8%. So even higher than the overall Asia-Pacific rate. Impressive.
It is.
Any other countries in Latin America showing significant momentum?
Yeah, several. Argentina shows a healthy 5.8% CAGR. Colombia is quite robust at 6.6%. Peru is slightly slower, but still solid at 5.2%. And Chile is strong again at 6.5%.
So it seems like across several major Latin American nations, there's a clear trend. increasing demand for these premium vehicle features.
It's definitely the picture the data paints. Consistent, strong growth in key markets.
Okay. And finally, just to round out the global picture,
Yeah.
let's quickly cover the Middle East and Africa.
Sure. This region obviously contributes smaller numbers to the global total compared to the others we've discussed, but it's still part of the growth story.
What figures does the report give us there?
It gives figures for Egypt at 5.2% CAGR, Turkey at 5.7%, and then the rest of the Middle East collectively at 4.5% CAGR.
Okay. So still growing, contributing to the overall trend.
Exactly. While maybe not as high growth overall as Asia-Pac or parts of Latin America, they still show steady participation in this global trend towards more advanced suspension in luxury vehicles.
Right. So we've laid out the global numbers. We've broken them down by region, touched on the drivers. When we pull back now and look at the whole picture, what's the key takeaway? What does all this data really mean?
Well, I think the biggest takeaway is that this market, premium vehicle suspension, isn't just growing steadily, it's fundamentally evolving. And it's being powered by technology and these shifts in global wealth we've seen.
And growth isn't even real.
Not at all. That's the other key point. While the established markets, North America, Europe, they're steady, solid contributors,
Yeah.
the really explosive growth is happening in places like India, China, Brazil. That highlights where the next wave of luxury demand is really centered.
And it shows what people want when they get that disposable income.
It seems so. It shows that as disposable incomes rise in these emerging economies, the demand for that sophisticated comfort and performance, the kind enabled by adaptive suspension, it's a top priority for these new luxury buyers.
So it tells us that the very idea of premium is maybe being redefined by technology like adaptive suspension. And that redefinition is happening globally, but with significant momentum in these emerging markets.
Precisely. It's not just about, bigger sales figures on a chart. It reflects tangible changes in what consumers all around the world expect from a high-end vehicle.
Yeah.
And it shows where automotive innovation is having the biggest market impact right now.
Okay, so let's connect it back to you, listening right now. Why should you care about the growth of a market, maybe as specific as premium vehicle suspension?
That's a fair question. And I think the answer is because this market, it's kind of a leading indicator. It points towards the future of the driving experience, even beyond just the luxury segment.
How so?
Well, the billions being invested here, they're driving the development, the refinement of technologies like adaptive damping, like sensor fusion that tries to anticipate road conditions, systems that actively counteract body roll or pitch, all this cutting edge stuff.
Okay.
And this tech, once it's perfected in the premium space, it eventually, filters down. It becomes available in more mainstream vehicles over time. So it ultimately makes cars safer, more comfortable, more dynamic for, potentially everyone.
So it gives you a glimpse of where car tech is heading.
Exactly. It shows you where automotive R&D is really focused and gives you a sense of what the cars of tomorrow might actually feel like to drive.
Okay. So to bring it all together then, this deep dive into the Cognitive Market Research Report, it reveals a premium vehicle suspension market that's experiencing really robust tech-driven growth worldwide, with regions like Asia-Pacific, particularly India and China, really leading the charge. And that's driven by rising luxury demand and this clear consumer preference for advanced comfort and technology.
That sums it up pretty well.
Thank you for joining us as we unpack the numbers behind premium vehicle dynamics.
Absolutely. It's a fascinating area, isn't it, where engineering really meets that subjective driver experience.
It really is. And maybe here's a final thought for you to consider based on all this. Given the sheer scale of investment we've discussed, we're talking billions, and this relentless focus on adaptive suspension technologies and enhanced ride comfort, how fundamentally might the actual feel, the capability of what we call a premium vehicle, how might that transform over the next decade?
Interesting question.
And what does that transformation tell us about the future of the driving experience? Not just for those who can afford the top-end luxury cars today, but potentially, eventually, for everyone as this technology becomes more widespread. Something to ponder, perhaps, as you encounter the cars of the future.
Okay, let's unpack this. Welcome to the deep dive.
Glad to be here.
We plunge into source material, pull out the most interesting bits, the essential knowledge, just for you.
Yep.
Today, we're tackling something that might seem niche, but it's fascinating. The premium vehicles suspension market.
And our source for this one, our guide, really, is a market dynamics report from Cognitive Market Research. Gives us a good look under the hood.
Right, under the hood. Exactly. So our mission isn't just, figuring out how cars go over bumps.
Although that's part of it.
It is. But we want to really get a handle on the key forces shaping this high-tech, constantly shifting part of the auto world. It's so crucial for defining luxury and performance.
Absolutely. Because suspension in these high-end cars, well, it's way more than just springs and shocks these days.
Right.
It's this critical meeting point, advanced engineering, that constant demand for luxury feel, and increasingly smart tech, digital stuff.
Oh, interesting.
It's like where the pavement meets the pixels, kind of.
I like that, where the pavement meets the pixels. So, okay, let's start right there. What are the main things really pushing growth in this market according to the sources?
Well, at its core, it's pretty simple but powerful.
Yeah.
It's that lasting, growing demand from people buying premium cars for, well, better ride comfort and really good handling.
Okay, makes sense. You pay more, you expect more.
Exactly. They expect a car that just glides, but also feels, planted and responsive when you turn.
So it's about the quality of the drive, not just getting there.
Yeah.
How does the industry actually deliver that?
Through sophisticated tech, we're talking advanced systems, things like air suspension.
Right, I've heard of that.
Yeah, it can adjust ride height, how stiff or soft the ride feels, pretty much on the fly, or adaptive and active suspensions.
What's the difference there? Active.
Well, these aren't just reacting passively. They're intelligently changing how the car handles bumps, body roll based on the road, or even how you're driving.
Okay.
They give a much, much better ride quality, better maneuverability. It's a huge part of that refined luxury feel.
And manufacturers know this. They market these features heavily, don't they? Adjustable damping, adaptive ride.
Oh, absolutely. They're big selling points. They boost the brand image, that feeling of sophistication, and, well, they make customers happy. And in this segment, details really matter.
Okay. But you mentioned smart tech. Pixels.
Right. Here's where it gets really interesting now. These advanced systems, they're getting deeply woven into the car's overall electronics. It's all part of that move towards smart mobility, connected cars. Suspension isn't just mechanical anymore. It's becoming digital.
Digital suspension, like the car's thinking about the road.
Pretty much. These high-end systems don't work alone. They're connected to control units, ECUs, grabbing data from sensors all over.
What kind of data?
Road conditions, speed, steering angle, how you're accelerating or braking.
Yeah.
All of it. This allows for real-time adjustments, sometimes even predictive ones.
Predictive, like it knows what's coming.
Sort of, yeah.
Yeah.
Based on mapping data or even sensors scanning the road ahead, this tech leap is really driving demand for active and semi-active damping systems.
Damping. That's how quickly it settles after a bump, right?
Exactly. And in premium cars, having that real-time, intelligent control is becoming, well, almost expected, a must-have.
So the car isn't just reacting, it's anticipating, preparing the suspension before the bump. That's a whole new level of comfort and control.
It really is.
Mhm.
And if we look at the bigger picture, another huge driver for the market isn't just tech in existing markets.
Okay.
It's the massive growth in luxury car sales in emerging economies. Think places like China, India, Brazil.
Ah, right.
This audio was created with podcastle.ai.
Think places like China, India, Brazil.
Ah, right. Rising incomes, more people wanting those premium brands.
Precisely. And car makers aren't just shipping the same cars over, they're often building them locally.
Okay.
And crucially, they're equipping these cars with premium features, including these advanced suspension systems, sometimes even tuning them specifically for, say, rougher roads you might find in those regions.
So localization includes suspension tech.
Definitely. And that localization, plus just the sheer volume increase, is really fueling global market growth and competition.
Okay, so the picture so far is more sophistication, driven by luxury demands, loads of tech integration, and this global expansion.
Yeah.
But there have to be downsides, right? Challenges. What did the sources say are the main restraints?
Yeah, absolutely. The number one hurdle, no question, it's the cost. These advanced systems are just incredibly expensive to develop and build.
Why so much? What makes them so pricey?
Well, it's the intricate engineering, for one, but also the parts themselves. You've got complex electronic sensors, actuators.
The muscles doing the adjusting.
Exactly. Those could be hydraulic or pneumatic. And then often expensive lightweight materials like special alloys for the suspension arms and bits to keep unsprung weight down.
Unsprung weight. That's the wheels, brakes, parts of the suspension itself.
Right. Less of that means better handling and ride. but making those parts light and strong costs money.
Got it. And that cost obviously gets passed on.
Directly. It adds a serious chunk to the vehicle's price tag, which, pretty much restricts these systems to the luxury and ultra-luxury segments.
Yeah.
It just prices out most people looking at mid-range cars. So the tech stays exclusive.
So the very thing giving that amazing comfort also creates a barrier. What else is a challenge?
Well, there's the complexity, especially when things go wrong. Maintenance and repair.
Not like just swapping out an old shock absorber.
Not at all. These advanced systems, particularly air suspension or the electronically controlled ones, they need special diagnostic tools.
Okay.
And technicians need to be highly skilled. They need to understand the mechanics and the electronics, the software side.
I can see how that could be an issue for owners.
It can be. It often means longer time in the shop, and the repair bills can be significantly higher.
Ouch.
Yeah, and that can affect the whole ownership experience, maybe even resale value, especially if you're somewhere without easy access to those specialized skills and equipment.
Okay, so high-cost, complex repairs. Is there a third big one?
Yes, and it's a really critical one today. Weight. The weight penalty.
All this clever tech adds pounds.
It adds substantial weight. All those actuators, compressors for air systems, the control units, wiring, it all adds up.
And weight is the enemy of fuel efficiency, isn't it?
Always. Especially now, with manufacturers under huge pressure to meet strict fuel economy and CO2 emission targets.
Right.
So this added weight directly pushes against those goals, particularly in cars that aren't fully electric. It forces a really tough trade-off for engineers.
How so?
How do you add this heavy, luxurious technology that buyers want while also making the car lighter overall to hit those efficiency numbers?
Yeah.
It's a constant balancing act.
A real engineering tightrope walk. Okay. That leads us nicely into the future then. What are the key trends shaping where this is all going? How are they walking that tightrope?
Well, that digital integration we talked about, that's only getting deeper. A huge trend is the move towards systems that aren't just reacting or semi-active, but fully active and predictive.
Fully active and predictive?
Yeah.
So the suspension becomes a really smart subsystem.
Totally. Think about real-time terrain sensing. The car is literally scanning the road surface just ahead of the wheels.
Seriously?
Yeah, and it adjusts the damping before you even hit that pothole or bump. Predictive damping, integrating tightly with stability control. These intelligent systems are really raising the bar for comfort and safety. The suspension is becoming a core part of the car's connected brain,
Predictive damping. The car sees the bump and prepares itself. That is seriously cool tech.
It really is. Now, about that weight penalty we mentioned.
Yeah, the balancing act.
That challenge is driving enormous investment in lightweight materials specifically for suspension parts.
So fighting weight with smarter materials.
Exactly. We're seeing much more use of things like carbon fiber composites, advanced aluminum alloys, high-strength plastics, stuff like that.
Strong but light.
Precisely. These aren't just small tweaks. They let engineers shave off significant weight from suspension components while keeping them strong and durable, sometimes even stronger.
So high-tech suspension needs high-tech materials. Makes sense. Any other big trends? Maybe something happening outside the factory?
Yeah, actually, one interesting trend, especially in the really high-end premium and ultra-luxury space, is the growth of aftermarket suspension tuning and customization.
Wait, people are messing with the already super sophisticated factory suspension.
They are. Some high-income owners, they want to personalize how their car drives, even beyond what the factory offers.
For what reason? Performance. Looks.
Could be any of those. Maybe they want it set up for track days, or they want a specific look with a lower ride height, or maybe they want to boost the off-road chops of their luxury SUV.
Huh. And that creates business opportunities.
You bet. This desire for bespoke tuning is opening up new business models. Not just for specialist aftermarket shops, but some car makers, the OEMs themselves, are starting to offer more personalized suspension options or tuning services.
Interesting. It adds that layer of individual tailoring on top of the engineered luxury.
It does. And it just shows this fascinating dynamic, right, between what's possible with engineering, the tech ambition, and what customers actually want. It's constantly pushing things forward.
Okay, so let's try and bring this all together for you listening. We've done a deep dive into the premium vehicle suspension market using those insights from cognitive market research.
Yeah.
And we've seen it's a really dynamic space, driven fundamentally by that desire for amazing comfort and handling,
Right.
but then supercharged by all this digital tech integration and expanding worldwide as luxury demand grows in new markets.
But we also looked at the significant hurdles. the high cost that keeps it pretty exclusive,
Yeah.
the complexity that makes repairs tricky and expensive,
Yeah.
and that persistent issue of added weight fighting against the push for efficiency.
Definitely. But despite those challenges, the whole market is clearly being pushed forward by innovation. We're seeing these incredibly intelligent predictive systems becoming more common.
There's that huge push into lightweight materials to try and square the circle of performance and efficiency.
Right, the tightrope walk.
And even this growing world of aftermarket customization,
Yeah.
adding another layer.
It's really clear that suspension is moving way beyond just being mechanical bits. It's becoming this critical, intelligent part of the car's digital nervous system, shaping the experience inside by reacting smartly to the world outside.
Exactly. So given everything we've talked about, these trends towards intelligent, active, really connected suspension systems, here's something to think about.
Okay.
How might this technology go beyond just making the ride smoother or the handling sharper? How could it fundamentally change the relationship between the person in the car, whether they're driving or, being driven in an autonomous future, and the road itself? What could that ultimately mean for how cars are designed?
Yeah.
And maybe even for what the driving experience itself feels like down the road.
This audio was created with Podcastle.ai